This next hearing is regarding non-compliance with conditions of approval of special permit number 1122 and revocation proceedings. This is initiated by the Planning Department and the Planning Director. The location of the subject properties are located in the Puna District. More specifically, we're looking at Seaview Kalapana Estates, which is between Kaimu and Opihikau along Highway 137 or Kalapana-Kapoho Road. Areas near this area is the Kahena Beach Estates, the Puna Palisades Beach Estates. The outline is the subject properties which are located in the rear portion of the Seaview Estates subdivision. This is a closer view. Again, we have the subject properties identified with black outline. The color of the map represents the zoning, which is all identified as agricultural, 3 acres. On September 21st, 2001, special permit number 1122 was approved. This was approved to Hawaii Volcano Circus, or HVC, who was represented by Graham Ellis. This was to allow the establishment of a performing arts educational center on a 2.5 acre portion of a larger 10.3 acre site situated within the State Land Use Agricultural District. There were a total of 9 conditions attached to the permit. The proposed development was represented to include the construction of an administrative building pavilion approximately 7,920 square feet in size for rehearsals and training to promote the healthy development of children and the community using the skills and fun of the circus. The facility would include an area divided into a rehearsal and training area, 2 offices, costume and prop storage, workshops, lanais, certified kitchen, bathroom, showers, equipment storage, and vehicle parking. Overnight shelter for resident participants attending the circus camps would consist of tents in the area adjacent to the center. The proposed development was represented that the number of people using the facility would vary during the year. Weekly classes, workshops, and rehearsals would involve approximately 25 people, approximately 6 times a week, between the hours of 10 a.m. and 9 p.m. Most students would be transported in company vans, and some would arrive on foot, by bicycle, and a few in cars. The maximum number of people using the facility would be during the workshops and the annual winter and summer camps, with about 40 student participants and 10 staff. January 11th, 2010. The Planning Department received a complaint which was signed by 7 complainants. Since January of 2010 until the present, the Planning Department has received numerous complaints from several complainants. Complaints were related to the performance of performances open to the public held on the subject property, loud noise, traffic, on-street parking, public safety, unpermitted structures, hours of operation, non-compliance with conditions of the special permit, and other complaints. If the applicant fails to comply with the conditions of approval or causes complaints relating to any interference or nuisance and is unable to resolve them with the surrounding community, the Planning Director shall investigate and, if necessary, suspend the permit. The Planning Director shall then refer the matter to the Planning Commission to revoke the permit. Upon appropriate findings by the Planning Commission, if the applicant fails to comply with the conditions of approval or has caused any unreasonable interference or nuisance on the surrounding community, the permit may be revoked. Planning Department investigation. Non-compliance of condition number 1. Condition number 1 states the applicant, successor, or assigns shall be responsible for complying with all stated conditions of approval. For clarification purposes, there are several different entities mentioned throughout the different correspondence associated with the property. These include Seaview Performing Arts Center for Education, or S.P.A.C.E., Hawaii Volcano Circus, or HVC, Belly Acres, and Village Green Society. The original applicant for the special permit is Hawaii Volcano Circuits, who is represented by Graham Ellis. Ellis is also connected to the other entities mentioned above. Attempts have been made by Ellis to disassociate HVC with certain activities occurring on the subject property by stating that the activity was conducted by another entity and not the applicant, even though Ellis was clearly associated with the activity. Non-compliance of condition number 2. The proposed development was not represented to include holding public performances, including events in which tickets were sold for a monetary fee to members as well as non-members, the serving of alcohol at these events, a weekly farmers market, a weekly bazaar, a swap meet, rental of the facility for parties and group events, and the construction of additional unpermitted dwellings or structures. Non-compliance of condition number 4. Condition number 4 states the applicant shall secure building permits for all existing farm dwellings buildings on the remainder of the property within 1 year from the effective date of the permit. The effective date was September 21st, 2001, so this would given them 1 year. The applicant had submitted a request for an additional administrative time extension, which was granted. In 2001, the existing structures on the subject property represented by the applicant were 4 farm dwellings, a workshop, a generator shed, and outbuildings. In June of 2001, the applicant submitted a letter stating that there were 5 unpermitted structures, 3 of which would be removed once the Performance Arts Educational Center was built, and the other 2 would be permitted as 2 more farm dwellings. This is the site plan that was submitted along with the special permit application in 2001. The property is identified with the black outline. We've color-coded the different structures just for representations. The red identifies what are called farm dwellings, and the 2 blue located at the Mackay portion of the property identified as farm buildings. The proposed Performing Arts Center was identified on the lower portion of the property but was not yet constructed. In 2010, a site inspection was done by a zoning inspector within the planning department. During the inspection, it was noted that there were numerous structures on the property. A request was made, or an order was made from the planning department to the applicant to supply a survey of the property done by a licensed survey and identify all existing structures and what they were. This is the survey map that was submitted by the applicant. Again, the different color coded identifies the different types of structures. Zooming in on this survey map, this is the Malco portion of the property. The red structures, again, are dwelling structures. They're identified as faculty staff housing or student bunk housing. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 identified on the site plan. It's my understanding that this particular dwelling, which is encroaching on state land adjacent to the property, has been removed. Additionally, we have pink structures, which are accessory type structures. We have a shed, carport. The blue structure is a greenhouse. And as you'll note, there are numerous water catchment tanks on the property as well. This is the Mackay portion of the property. The only structure identified from the previous map is this particular structure. Previously, we had 7 identified dwellings. This would be 8, 9, 10. Additionally, we have accessory structures. This is a bathroom workshop type structure. This is identified as a kitchen, the storage tent, and another shed. The green is the Performing Arts Educational Center, which was constructed at this time. This is the building permit records for the property. It identifies that the applicant, it identifies what structures are on the subject property. In 1995 and in 1998, the applicant had received building permits for 4 dwellings, 2 in 95, 2 in 98. Additionally, there were 2 additions done to these existing dwellings. There were several other structures constructed on the property, a garage storage, a greenhouse, and a shed. Up above, you'll notice the same identification of the shed, but it's in parentheses. That means that it's been demolished. So the shed is actually not on the property or permitted. And lastly, we have the Performing Arts Training Pavilion. Currently, 4 of these structures are closed. Several are still open as far as building permits. Here are several photos that were taken during the site inspection done by our zoning inspector. It's unclear as to whether or not these are the permitted or unpermitted, although we do know this is the Performing Arts Educational Center, which is permitted. This is a side view of that structure and another side view. I'll just run through these. These are all, whether they're dwellings or sheds or structures, it's unclear at this point. This particular photo shows one side of this structure. This is a carport structure. This is the other side of that structure that was located behind that carport structure. Non-compliance of condition number 5. Condition number 5 states no public performances shall be allowed on the subject property. Condition number 5 reflected the representation of the applicant that they would not be presenting public performances in the building, but that it would be used solely for educational purposes. This is an example of the public performances that has occurred on the property. This is a portion of the S.P.A.C.E. Performing Arts Center newsletter from June of 2008. This identifies that there were movie nights that were occurring on the property. They request donations for these movies. There was a jazz cafe that was happening monthly. Admission for S.P.A.C.E. members was $10, guests and non-members was $15. And since 2008 at this time, it was showing that the farmers market was in operation on Saturdays. This is an advertisement of one of the events that was held at the S.P.A.C.E. facility. This was held on November 20th and 21st, 2009. It shows that there are tickets for sale. A portion that was attached to this identified that the ticket sale was $25, which included poo-poos and a glass of wine. This correlates with the first complaint within exhibit number 7. You'll notice that in that complaint, which was quite extensive, there was a 4-page incident log, and as you look to that, you'll notice that some of these dates correlate with each other. This is an event that was held there, again showing a $10 admission fee. Identifies that it's being held at S.P.A.C.E. Seaview Performing Arts Center. This event was called Conference of the Birds, held on December 31st, 2009. It states that they will have a no-host bar, poo-poos, and general admission was $20 a ticket. Contact was made with Department of Liquor Control, and it was confirmed that no liquor permit was ever approved for this facility or event. This was a portion of the January 2010 newsletter from S.P.A.C.E. that was submitted as part of the first complaint. It states, Le Chic, number 3 will be held Friday, Saturday, February 5th and 6th, 2010. This states that this year the show will be an adult burlesque show containing adult humor and possible nudity. Tickets on sale now, limited to S.P.A.C.E. annual members through January 12th. Tickets were $12.99. It states both shows sold out for the past 2 years, and we are expecting to do so again this year. March 1st, 2010 is our first notice of non-compliance that was issued. This is based on the requirement put on the Planning Department from condition number 8. The Planning Department investigated the complaints. It was concluded that the applicant violated these conditions of special permit number 1122. with a portion of the cease and desist order stated stated cease and desist operating all unpermitted activities on the subject property that were not represented under special permit number 1122. These include, but are not limited to, the weekly farmers market, swap meet, bazaars, jazz cafe, community movie nights, drama workshops, family parties, group events, weddings, and music and public performance programs, and any other unpermitted non-agricultural business on the subject property. A meeting was held with the applicant and their representatives with the planning director on March 12, 2010. The reason for the meeting was to discuss questions that the applicant had regarding the cease and desist order. In summary, the planning director allowed the farmers market held on Saturdays and the bazaar held on Wednesday nights to continue temporarily while the applicant prepare an amendment to special permit number 1122. The planning director allowed these uses to continue temporarily so that it would not affect people's income while the applicant prepared the amendment, especially in the light of the economy at this time. Additionally, the planning director made it clear that there were to be no more public performances, advertised public events, or commercial weddings held on the site. Personal events such as a birthday party or a personal wedding of a family member are allowed, as they are personal and not commercial. This did not include birthday parties or weddings of S.P.A.C.E. members, but of the occupant owner of the properties. The applicant submitted an amendment application on June 14, 2010. On September 7, 2010, the applicant requested to withdraw that amendment. No other amendment request has been submitted to the planning department as of this date. This date is being May 3, 2012. October 26, 2010, the executive director of S.P.A.C.E. submitted a letter requesting an exemption from the cease and desist order to allow S.P.A.C.E. to hold 6 public performances from October 2010 until April of 2010. The request was to allow S.P.A.C.E. to hold fundraisers because their financial situation had reached a crisis level. On November 4, 2010, the planning director responded stating that this office cannot allow a use that is strictly prohibited as a condition of the special permit that was issued by the Planning Commission. The special permit will need to be amended to allow for public performances on the subject property. Until such an amendment is approved, no public performances are allowed. The Planning Department began to receive complaints, several complaints regarding a 25th anniversary event that was to be held at S.P.A.C.E. The Planning Department staff contacted the applicant as well as the applicant's representative and informed them that we did not feel this was allowed as allowed by the director within her March 25th, 2010 letter. A letter was sent to the applicant and the representatives by email as well as certified. The applicant's representative had submitted a letter on the same day, February 24th, in response to our contacts that we had made regarding this event. That particular letter is Exhibit 17. Our letter, February 24th, is Exhibit 16. Within our letter, a portion of it states, this 25th anniversary event is not a personal event, but an event for an entity, Belly Acres. It is not represented as, it is being represented as an invitation-only event, and that you are requesting donations for the event and or for the nonprofit entity holding the event. One would not ask for donations for a birthday party or a personal event. I have read your submitted declaration, and it does not change my feelings about this event. It is my decision that this is not a personal party or similar allowance that I made at our meeting. This 2-day event is way beyond what I allowed. You are circumventing these allowances which were given to you as a courtesy while you prepare your amendment application. The Planning Department has notified you and your representatives that this is clearly beyond the allowance afforded you in our meeting and in my in my March 25th, 2010 letter, and that you should not hold this two-day event, or you will be in jeopardy of receiving a violation notice or in jeopardy of your permit. You have been advised by my staff that you should wait until the permit is amended before holding this anniversary event. This was a portion of the complaints that were submitted. Basically, it does state that this is a private party. It states that invitations are required for admissions. Donations in support of our artistic eco-village are welcome, but it also has a blurb regarding ticket sales, which are $25 to $15 sliding scale for seats, and $15 to $5 for standing room. Aloha friends, this was done on February 24th, 2012, just before the February 24th and 25th event were to be held for this anniversary event. Included was the requirement for the applicant to order to show cause before the Windward Planning Commission regarding non-compliance. Again, the applicant was ordered to immediately cease and desist all unpermitted activity, which was listed. Included on the bottom portion of this, it stated, this included any activities that were allowed previously by the planning director, which would be the farmer's market as well as the bazaar. Additionally, all activities permitted under special permit number 1122 were suspended pending the decision of the Planning Commission. And again, this was on March 16, 2012. April 5th, 2012, the Planning Department continued to receive complaints that the farmers market continued on, as well as other space-related activities. Third notice of non-compliance was issued. The notice also ordered the applicant to appear before the Planning Commission because the Planning Director was moving for revocation proceedings. Since the second notice of non-compliance, the Planning Department has continued to receive complaints that the farmers market, as well as other space-related events, has continued to operate in violation of the cease and desist order. As a result of continuing to operate the farmers market and other space-related events on space property and continued advertising of these events, the Planning Director initiated revocation proceedings before the Planning Commission.